My name is Bob Scarborough. I was a cryptologist on the USS Liberty, a seaman at the time, a arb rancher, which is a radioman, and my job was to get on the radio and see what kind of traffic I could pick up of. So I was relatively new at doing that when I first came on board, and learned a lot on the first cruise, and started the second cruise. And that's when we were in Abidjan. It was our first stop, Abidjan, West Ivory Coast, in Africa. And we were immediately called up into the Mediterranean. So we went to Rota, Spain, and picked up some supplies and some additional personnel, Russian linguists, I think an Arabic linguist, and put to sea at flying speed to head out over to the Eastern Mediterranean. When we got on station, we were about 12 and a half nautical miles off the coast of El Arish in the Med. And we were cruising back and forth, just at a little slow speed to see whatever we could pick up. I had the mid-watch on June the 7th, so which meant I got off like at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. I don't recall exactly, and went in, had some breakfast, and then went hit the rack, and I slept until I think 11:30, something like that. And so we had a GQ practice, general quarters, was called around 1300, about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I went to my GQ station, which was down in below decks in RR1 and a radio shack. And we were supposed to, at that time, turn on our radios and see if we could pick up anything. During a GQ, you would just look for anything on to listen to. So after that GQ was over, we went back to our berthing compartment, which is on the after end of the ship, and typically we were just sitting around shooting the breeze, and all of a sudden I heard the gunfire. I didn't really hear gunfire. What I heard was the bullets hitting the top of the ship, or hitting the overhead, and which, I mean, there was no second thoughts. I knew exactly what that was, and before the general quarters alarm rang out, I was on my way to through the ship to go back down to our R1, where to my GQ station again. So we tried to see if we could pick up any information, and eventually the radios, I guess because of all the gunfire and hitting antennas and things, some of the equipment started to smoke, so we had to shut it all down. But and then it seemed like a long time before the shooting stopped, and then we started hearing other types of machine gun fire, and I was told that we all had to get down low because there were some shells that were starting to break through the side of the ship, and I think one of the petty officers got hit by some of those shells coming through the side. Then I heard on the 1MC, which is the ship's broadcast system, that to stand by for torpedo attack starboard side, which really threw me for a loop that we might possibly get torpedoed. And then I could tell the ship was at flank speed because it was not a fast ship. So when it cranked up to about 18 knots, the tables started vibrating, and you could really tell that we were all out at flat speed. And once again, I heard several more times to stand by for torpedo attack starboard side, which never happened, and it seemed like hours between, but of course it was only minutes. But and then finally, I heard brace for torpedo starboard side, and so I was down on the floor, said a few prayers, and then all of a sudden, everything exploded. I was up against a bulkhead, and which was right near where the ladder going topside was. But in order to get in and out of our spaces, you had to walk down a passageway off the ladder and through a doorway, and then back into our one where I was. And there were so the explosion happened, and I was knocked up into the overhead. I didn't realize it until I went back down later to that when we were in Malta a week later, that the bulkhead that I was up against was gone. So anyway, I flew up into the overhead, slammed back down on the deck, and I had to, I don't know how long I was unconscious, but was awakened by the water coming in the ship, and it was starting to rise, and so it was dark, so I felt my way down the passageway or through the RR1 to where the doorway was into the passageway. And by that time, I was up to water in my knees. There was a guy coming out of the P&R office, which was across the passageway from the RR1, and he had his foot caught in the door. The onrushing water was pushing it against his foot. He couldn't get his foot out, so he and I pushed on the door and got his foot out. But by that time, we were starting to tread water. When I got to the end of the passageway, I was swimming. And apparently a lot of guys had already gotten out. The hatch was about 6 feet by 3 feet wide, but it had been dogged down because of the general quarters drill. And there was a scuttle, which is a small, round hole with a wheel to lock it down in that hatch. So I was hanging onto a pipe in the overhead, and we had about 18 inches of breathing space left, and it was waiting for the ship either to roll over or that hatch to open. There was somebody on the hatch with a very large wrench because the bolts that locked that down are about, I think they're about 6 inches across, and so it was taking him a while to undog the hatch to get it open. So we just waited there in silence and just hearing the water splash around and level going up and down with the movement of the ship until that hatch was finally opened. And we did make our way onto the ladder so to go topside, or at least go to the next level. And Larry Bowen was standing there with a life jacket, handed in, and he was passing those out as we came up in that next level, and said, go topside. And there was a relatively short route to get to a ladder to go up to the next level and finally onto the main deck. was since the Liberty was an old cargo ship, there were cargo hatches that were kind of covered up. So I sat down on one of those. There was so much shrapnel on the deck at that time that I was wearing leather-soled shoes, and the shrapnel stuck into my shoes. Every time I tried to stand up, I would slide down to where the starboard side of the ship was partly, the main deck was partly in the water. And so literally hung on to things to try to pull myself back up. And there's quite a few other guys there. I think I was unconscious there for a while. And somebody shook me and said, we got to get in the forecastle because the torpedo boats were returning so we didn't know if they were going to come and sink us or finish the job or whatever they were going to do. So I went up into the forecastle with a group of other guys, and I passed out again there. And when I woke up, it was actually it was dark outside. So I don't know what was going on during that period. So I went to the mess decks where there were, I guess I left out something. There's one of the guys was brought up. His leg was literally crushed in a doorway, and there was blood running out of his shoes, and there was, so he and another guy took him over toward the mess decks, and then somebody took him on down to the mess decks for treatment, and then I saw the blood when I first came up topside. I also saw all the blood on the front of the forecastle where the gunner was literally blown to pieces. His body was lying on the edge of the forecastle, and his blood was running down the bulkhead there and puddling up there. It was amazing to me. There was blood everywhere, just blood everywhere. I had some shrapnel wounds, and I don't know why they weren't more serious. It was funny, but I had a lot of shrapnel wounds on my arms. Nothing really bad. It was amazing to me that I could actually, I do remember when the explosion hit, it was like an incredible wind, and if you could feel things, I could feel things hitting me in the face and in the arms, but I didn't have any. I couldn't tell exactly what was going on. It was really strange. There was no fire or anything where I was, but I do remember looking around and seeing small fires here and there, and I couldn't figure out how can I see those fires. I didn't even have the wherewithal at the time to say, how can I see these when the bulkhead is here? There's a bulkhead right here. How can I see these fires going on? But I didn't think about that until actually much later. So I guess I was conscious for a while. But I didn't see the hell I do. I know that there were helicopters, Israeli helicopters that came over and all kind of, and I didn't see any of that, even though I was right there in the forecastle. So that must have been the time that I was unconscious, and then ended up, I was down in the mess decks, and there were so many wounded people there that were really seriously wounded. I just laid down on the deck under one of the tables and passed out again. woke up later and tried to help as much as I could, but there was, there was so much going on, and I had no knowledge of medicine or what to do with somebody. I mean, it just it was crazy.
How old were you?
I was 21.
Do you remember, especially when you were, with just 18 inches of air, did you ever think to yourself you were going to die?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But I know it wasn't. I mean, I guess I had the common sense to hang on to the pipe and keep treading water, but, and yeah, you definitely feel like you're going to die. The only hope we had is that clanging on the hatch, trying to, Schnell was the guy, that was there, working on the hatch to get it open. So yeah, I had thoughts of that. This could be it. But I don't know, that wasn't on my mind mostly. It was just getting out of there was mostly just on my mind. And that night, I went out with a repair party, and we tried to patch holes. The deck force sleeping quarters were in the bow of the ship, and there were so many holes in the bow we had to go around and you take a large cone-shaped piece of wood and hammer it actually in the hole to stop the hole and to keep water from coming in because we were sitting so low in the water. And we were dead in the water for quite a while. And then they, after the Israelis left, they managed to get steam up. Thank goodness for George Golden, and got us started moving us out of the area. I did notice that the life rafts were shot up. I did see that in there. Like I said, there was so much shrapnel on the ground. There were holes everywhere. There's blood everywhere. Yeah. Lots of blood. There was, particularly from the guys that were wounded or killed in the gun mounts. Because when we came up from below decks. Was a passageway that led up to a kind of a small deck house where we came out onto the main deck, and that's when I saw the water on the so much water around that I guess they immediately worked on trying to move. The ballast tanks were tanks that held water, so that you could level the ship, and so they had to move that around so they could try to get the deck out of the water and get some. We still had a pretty good list, but not as bad as it was when we immediately after the torpedo hit. I was really concerned that the ship was going to sink, but that's not on your mind all the time because you have, you're seeing your shipmates that were blown apart or wounded on top side. I was out. We were in the mess decks, and there was a body on every table. There was a person on every table. The doctor and the corpsmen were doing the best they could, and we. Anybody that could lend a hand would lend a hand if somebody said, okay, take care of this guy, hold this bandage on, do this, do that. And, you you would just move and do it. I didn't think about it when it was happening, but yeah, it was, and I was frightened, but not so much once I knew that we were moving, and that I wasn't frightened of dying anymore. I was frightened for my shipmates that were shot. Tommy Thornton, a guy that I had my guitar aboard ship, and Tommy was a kind of a folk singer, and I was interested in that music, and he taught me how to finger pick during the cruise, and something I still play that way today. But he was killed. I wasn't like Phil Turney was right there holding somebody when they died, and I didn't have that experience. But Phil, well, I'll tell you what, you just had to stay out of the way and do something when you were asked. So that's all you could do. As soon as we got the water out of the ship in dry dock, and then we were immediately sent down there to start body recovery, which was was the worst thing that's ever happened to me. Is having to pick up body parts and put them in a bag, and the bodies they're chopped up from all the shrapnel below decks, and it's amazing that more of us were killed. Incredible. Yes. I was there when Larry Bowen found Bob Eisenberg, and he was a nice guy. He's a third class, I think, petty officer, but he was always at a friendly. I didn't know him personally, but he was always friendly. He'd say, would always, you could tell the guys that were congenial, and he was one that was always just friendly guy. I thought, I played guitars with another guy, Larry Goins, and he and I were good friends. He was a third class in P&R who worked across the hall from me, but I didn't see him. I couldn't find him. I thought he was dead, and he was on a repair party, and his GQ station was not where I was. It was with a repair party, and so I ran into him that night, and we hugged each other, and I said, "I thought you were dead." He said, "I thought you were dead." It was bizarre. Ron Gransky and I were best of friends aboard ship. He was one of my best buddies, and Rocky Sturman, and one of the radio operators. And so, I kind of got along pretty much with everybody on board, and especially because we would play music together and things like that. So I knew some other guys in different divisions, and like Ernie Gallo played accordion, and so we'd have cookouts on the fantail, and guys would play their instruments, and Ernie would play his accordion. It was I was on body recovery for, I think I was there almost 2 weeks. It was over a week anyway that we worked below decks, and then I was told, "You're shipping out," and so there was a lot of us that were shipping out at one time. So it was interesting. I have to say, to Captain McGonagall's credit, he shook every shook every sailor's hand when we left, put on a bus, and sent to the airport. We flew from there to back to Rota, Spain, and then to Torrejon, Spain, where we spent the night, and then on to Lisbon, Portugal, and then to New York. So I got back to Norfolk and from New York, and I was given 14 days leave, and then I was kind of told, this is classified information, and I was used to that anyway because of my job and my security clearance. So, but we had people ask us, "Are you guys on the Liberty?" Yeah. That's all we told them. Well, what happened? I can't talk about that. It's crazy. It's stupid. And even when I got home, the newspaper I had a friend whose sister worked for one of the newspapers in Cincinnati, and she said, we want to interview. Would you do that? And I said, I guess so. And so they contacted me and said, well, we called the Navy, and they said, there's no way we can interview you. We can't do it. We're not allowed. And I didn't particularly want to be interviewed anyway. So from there, I went to Germany with, and some of our shipmates were there. Larry Bone was there, and some others. Lloyd Pater, one of the officers, and I knew her very well. Ended up in Bremerhaven as well. But I was told when I got there, I had it was chilly. It was 55 degrees when I got to Germany in July of '67, and I was wearing my dungaree jacket. It was called. It was because it was cool there, and I had my ship's patch on the shoulder and USS Liberty patch on it, and I was immediately ordered to take all that stuff off your jacket. And I thought at first that was just kind of a side hurt. It was a spit and polish base, and you always have to have your belt buckle shine and your shoes shined, and so I thought that was probably the reason. And then I found out other people had their duty station patches on their dungaree jacket. It was just because it was the USS Liberty stuff, it had to go. And I don't remember how long we were there, but I received a Purple Heart but it was given to me in a private ceremony in the captain's office with, there were 7 of us that were stationed there. We all got Purple Hearts, and they did it in a quiet ceremony in the captain's office, not in front of the troops. Nobody pinned anything on my chest. He handed me a box and the paperwork and shook my hand, and that was it. I have a picture of that at that ceremony. His name was Captain Burns. He was the captain of the Navy division. There was a small detachment in Navy on an Army base, and we had a secure spaces of our own, and we didn't mix with the Army at all. I met a girl when I was on leave between boot camp and who I ended up marrying, my first marriage. And so I'd been dating her. She was going to school in New York, and my friend Larry Goins, she was rooming with his future wife. And so he said, "Want to go to New York and meet some girls?" And I said, "Sure." So that's how we met. And so when she heard about the Liberty being attacked, and of course she didn't know if I was dead or alive, and and her roommate, was pretty much the same way about her future husband. So that was pretty crazy. And my mother couldn't find out any information, so my brother contacted a congressman and said, we don't know if my brother's dead or alive. So I got called. We were on our way to Malta, and I got called up to the personnel office, and I can't remember who the lieutenant was that was in there. Scarborough, you all right? I said, yeah. Does your brother know somebody? I said, no, I know of. He said, well, we got a congressional message asking about your health and welfare. I said, well, I'm upright. So I'm standing here, so I guess I'm okay. And that was pretty strange. Even when I got home on leave, though, I didn't talk to anybody about the Liberty except my family. I did, you're not supposed to tell your family, well, that it's my family. Of course I told them. And then, like I said, then I was off to Germany. I got a letter from the State Department. I don't know how long that took in Germany. And when the hell am I getting a letter from the State Department? So I opened it up, and it's this, and I still have this paperwork that the Israelis were offering like $500 for compensation for my wounds. And I thought, that's stupid. I mean, so I'm a 21-year-old kid. I said, I don't know what to do with this. So I went to the JAG office there, and there was no Navy JAG officer. I had to talk to an Army JAG, whatever he is, lawyer. And I said, so what do I do with this? He said, don't be stupid, kid. Take the money. So I'm 21 years old. I took $500 and signed the paper, which meant I could never sue Israel for what they did. I know other people that did not sign that. I know them now that got thousands of dollars. One guy, like 30 grand or something. I don't know. But anyways, so it's been the government has been taking advantage of us ever since. Well, we all thought of, couldn't understand why we got no help. And I didn't even know who attacked us. I didn't know it was Israel. And not until the word started spreading about the helicopters and things. Excuse me. One of the guys had a radio, and he was picking up some news broadcasts, and we found out it was Israel, and we were shocked. Are you kidding me? And we were all scratching our heads. We can't believe that's not possible. And then the next morning, I think we were all up all night. Nobody got any sleep, except for the times when I went unconscious. But I went topside, and I could see in the distance that the USS America, and even though it was still probably 20 miles away from us, it was so big that the superstructure was very distinguishable on the horizon. It was after sunup, and I felt some immediate relief that we finally got some help. That they and I went back below decks, but I understand that they actually manned the rails for us, which is kind of a Navy salute. Of course, most of them were curious. There's a lot of pictures that were taken off the America. Of course, there had reporters on the America that were there to cover the war, not to cover Liberty. So I have a Life magazine from the week following the attack that has a victorious Israeli soldier on the cover. And back about on page 26, we were the accident that happened. The picture of the ship, and that was it. A short paragraph about this unfortunate accident, and it's over. Mo has a couple of copies of it as well. So it was the same thing with the newspaper. I have newspapers from Cincinnati, the Cincinnati Enquirer, and the Post that of this attack on the ship was on the front page. And then it was back on page 3 the next day. And then the third day is back, somewhere near the ads for the stores. And then gone. Nothing else. So, I was in the movie business for 50 years. After I started with Universal Pictures before I went into the Navy, and then when I came back, they contacted me and asked me to if I wanted a job. I said absolutely. So, and I had different positions in the movie business for the next 50 years. I knew a lot of Jewish people. I did business with Jewish people. I worked for Jewish people. I don't hate Jews at all. I had many friends from the movie industry, but and I've told them the story. They said, well, they couldn't have done that on purpose. Must have been a case of mistaken identity, but flying an American flag, and I don't argue with them about it. They're all supportive of Israel, and I understand that. I just don't have to be a supporter of Israel, and they know that too. So I would like our government to acknowledge us and the cover-up that ensued and why. And they took her, they cleaned it up and brought her home and went, see, they didn't do anything. And we wanted that ship to come home beat up and bloodied so people could see what happened. And unfortunately, they painted her up, fixed her up like nothing ever happened, brought her in. Of course, nobody went inside to see where all, there was no guts in the ship anymore. So we just, and then they stuck her in mothballs and for a year and sold her for scrap. No evidence whatsoever, ever again. There would be no physical evidence of what Israel did. Contact your congressman. Contact your congressman and ask him about the USS Liberty. And what we've gotten is just a standard letter that this has already been investigated and found to be a case of mistaken identity, which we all know is not true. Call your congressman and ask him for a thorough congressional investigation. This incident has never been investigated by Congress. Every bombing, everything that happened in Beirut or anywhere else in the world gets investigated by Congress. But this incident of the attack on the USS Liberty has never been investigated. Let them know that you know.